That's the sound of praise and rejoicing that filled the sanctuary at Legacy Church on the morning of Sunday, April 23rd, 2023. During transition, Apostle Rosmery Peña shared the testimony of how 2-year-old Samuel Adderley, just 3 days prior, had a seizure while at home with his father, Pastor Tavaris Adderley. Baby Sam became unresponsive and life left his body. After receiving a phone call from the frightened father, Apostle Rosmery, who's also a grandmother to baby Sam, drove like a mad woman with her daughter and Sam's godmother, Micah Bethel, to the Adderley's residence. She was told that no ambulances were available and needed to get there immediately. She prayed while driving to the house, and upon her arrival, one thought kept playing over and over in her mind.
All I kept thinking is, I can't hand over to Pastor Crystal a dead child.
Pastor Crystal Adderley, wife of Pastor Tavaris and mother of Samuel, was at work when the matter took place. She too was notified and frantically headed to their house. Intercessors and pastors at Legacy Church were informed of the incident and were instructed to intercede for the Adderley family. Although afraid, Apostle Rosmery knew she had to pray and depend on the miracle-working God who came to her rescue many times before. While standing on stage, baby Samuel at her side, tears in her eyes and gratitude in her voice, Apostle Rosmery said this.
And I began to pray in tongues and declare life until I felt life come back. And I heard him cry. It was the most beautiful cry ever that I heard in life. And when he cried, I knew he was going to be all right.
Now on Sunday, Pastor Tavaris had to preach Sunday's sermon message. And toward the end of that message, he had similar remarks.
In that moment, when life came and I heard him cry, I've never been more grateful for that scream.
Those are the words of the emotional father. Tavaris Adderley, a Royal Bahamas Defense Force Marine, serves as pastor at Legacy Church and leads the education department. He finds great joy in being the husband to one wife and proud father of 2-year-old Samuel and 1-year-old Nyla Grace. Toward the end of his sermon, he reflected on that terrifying moment with his son. With Nyla Grace asleep in another room, he said while sitting on the chair with Sam in his arms, he remembered Sam feeling hot, and within minutes his son began to seize and his arms locked up. Pastor Tavaris said it was an attack. It was warfare. He knew that death had visited his home once more.
The only way I could describe it, because I knew it was an attack, when my son was born, shortly after we got a puppy, because we wanted a dog to protect in the moments when I'm not able to be there. And there was one night, I was reversing out of the yard, and the puppy, in his innocence, ran under the tire. And I remember pulling that dog out, and he had the same look. Immediately I recognized it's warfare. Why is it I'm seeing the same image of death? And my son,
with a limp and lifeless body in his arms, he knew he had to make a decision. He had to choose to believe what God said and declare the prophetic words spoken over baby Samuel's life.
My son at this point is limp. I hold him up, I'm saying, Samuel, 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 and he's like this. I remembered the prophetic words that was said over my son. And I said to God, you told me some things about him. I'm going to see it through, and so will he.
The entire church was overjoyed about the miracle that took place. Everyone witnessed baby Sam at the altar, lifting his hands and attempting to wave flags with the dancers. As believers, we know that what happens in the natural realm also happens in the spiritual realm. Apostle Rosmery reminded the congregation that this is what the church is about. As God sends the spiritually and emotionally dead to our community, we're believing in Him for His resurrection power to bring them back to life. She mentioned that as miracles occur, we don't seek to glorify ourselves. Jesus is the only one we glorify.
You got to make him your one affection and attention. Because God is going to send people here that may not be physically dead, but they're on their way. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. We want to be able to host an atmosphere that brings things back to life. We just want Jesus, because when you entrust us with a people, we want to make sure that resurrection is the only option, that life is the only outcome. We know that today could have been a different story, but there was a God of resurrection that met me at Pastor Adderley's house and brought a baby back to himself. Come on, we are a people that understand that it doesn't happen so that we can celebrate ourselves, but we celebrate Jesus. We give praise to Jesus. We give honor